Your absurd defiance ends here, hatchling.
The appointed time is here. Victory will be ours.
Annihilation. The fires of a thousand suns. You do not have the strength of hatchling.
That may be, but I am not alone.
How pathetic. Annihilation. The fires of a thousand suns. Incineration. Annihilation. The fires of a thousand suns. Annihilation. Incineration. The hatchling surprises.
Time to challenge me for this realm.
Hello and welcome, Exiles, to the final update to my Castle and Crypt Blazing Salvo Saboteur. Now, what you might find surprising is I actually am not going to recommend this character. That was actually one of the easiest Uber X arcs I've ever done, and I still won't recommend it because of 3 reasons. Reason number 1, and probably the biggest reason for me, is it's too much screen cancer. When I get the Blazing Salvo to start forking through the flame wall, my frames go capiche. They're gone. The bitrate's gone. My computer starts lagging. I feel like I'm going to destroy my GPU or my CPU. I don't know. Point is, it's too much screen cancer for me, and that is strike number 1 and probably the biggest strike for me. Now, make up your own mind. Maybe that's something you like to play. If it is, then go ahead and play it. But that, for me, is an issue. Number 2 is it's too weak in phys mitigation. On this character, I have amazing chaos and elemental mitigation, plus the ability to use tainted pact to basically negate all degens. That stuff feels fantastic. Where it falls short, my character only has 22,000 armor at base, and then with flasks, 34,000. In my opinion, that is just not enough armor in terms of phys mitigation for a character that has petrified blood with 2300 HP. Our phys max hit is just way too small in my opinion, so it ends up being a case where if we roll any combined map mods that stack in terms of damage, like monster damage plus crit, or monster damage plus, I don't know, overwhelm phys, or monster damage plus vulnerability, we roll any sort of stacking damage like that, monsters with like their default attacks sometimes will one-shot us, and that's just a frustrating experience. This is a scenario of 4th Vow, Tainted Pact, I think are amazing together. This is an awesome defensive kit, but I'm forcing it. I'm forcing it, and the reason what I mean by forcing it is I'm playing a Saboteur. I don't have good access to armor scaling. I have to travel all the way to the other side of the tree to start getting percent armor into my character with Faith and Steel, Sanctity, stuff like that, and it's just really not enough. Ultimately, these 2 defensive like items combined, 4th Vow, Tainted Pact, I think would feel amazing on a Templar base, a Marauder base, or a Duelist base, or even a Pathfinder base where you can actually get a really good armor scaling from your flask. Stuff like that, I think it's really going to shine, but when you're stretching really thin like this and you don't have a lot of great armor options on your other gear pieces and whatnot, it really starts to show, in my opinion, and that weakness is it's noticeable in terms of getting one shot. And I don't want to recommend a build that has a feels bad experience too. If you roll a map with just the wrong map mods, you start getting one shot by default attacks. That doesn't feel good, because it's a scenario where we're basically immortal, and then randomly a default attack kills us. Like, what? It feels wrong. I think this is a scenario where maybe if I went for a, I don't know, Cloak of Flame or a Lightning Coil, maybe the build would still feel fine because maybe we're doing overkill mitigation for our Chaos pool, but I'm not too sure. And so ultimately, it has that major issue, and I don't know of a good way to fix it per se that would be a clean solution. And then number 3 in the final is the build's just too expensive for the power level, in my opinion. When I start, this is a personal pet peeve of me, when I have to justify an Enlighten 4 to get my auras working properly, that is just a personal thing that just is upsetting to me as a build maker, because it's like, we're just an iota off of what we need in terms of reservation, and then the difference in me getting that just right and not right is 10 divines on a jewel. It feels so wrong, and I don't know of a good way to not make it this way, because I'm using this and I'm using a 2120 alternate quality arrogance. It just feels wrong just to barely get my purity of ice on my life pool without reserving too much of my life pool. I don't know, it's a weird feeling. I'm not a fan of it. That being said, on top of that, stuff like crafting, the fork mod, plus the additional fork, plus some other decent mods on my scepter was a pain. And then, I don't know, all in all, my gear isn't, like, I guess it's not too OP expensive, but it's not cheap either. And for those reasons, I just simply cannot recommend the build. I think it's too expensive, the screen cancer is too bad, and the physical spikes in damage when you roll bad map mods. Dying to a default attack is something I can never get behind on a build. If my build dies to a default attack, even on bad map mods, it still just doesn't feel right. It feels like I've made something that is just too weak defensively in one area, and I don't really have a good way to solve that with my Saboteur character. I'm sure if I could like change the build around and take it a completely different approach with a different ascendancy, I probably could polish this up, but that's not something I'm too interested in doing. I've had a lot of fun with the character, and this is what it is. Do with it what you will. I'm excited to play my next build, but ultimately I can't recommend the build. I'm gonna have the PUB in the description below. You can kind of make it up your own mind. Maybe you can take some bits and pieces from the build and modify them and make it better, or make it just a superior version to what I have here. But this is what I came up with at level 96 as a cast and crit Saboteur. And yeah, that's the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this journey of this character. As always, take care, Exiles, and peace out.